You want to start by making a slab. You're going to pound your clay down until it is about 1/4 of an inch thick. So you can do this using your hands is usually the best option. If you want to and you have access to, you could also use a roller. Please keep in mind if you're going to use a rolling pin not to get the edges too thin. You want a uniform slab. You want to check to make sure the template is going to fit on your slab of clay and also check the thickness of your slab. Remember, you want it to be about 1/4 of an inch. So keep pounding or rolling your clay until you get a slab that's the right size. When you're ready, you can trace the template onto your clay and cut out the 5 by 12 rectangle. You can see with this shape, you're going to make a nice cylinder that'll be a good size body for the mug that you're creating. At this point, you want to take any small scraps of clay and wad them up together and then put them under plastic so that they don't dry out. You can keep the larger portion of your slab to make a foot a little later on. When you pull up your slab, you can see that it should have a nice thickness that's uniform. At this point, you want to smooth out your slab so you can use the rib. Notice that I haven't really used a lot of water yet, or any water. Sometimes that can make the clay dry out a little bit faster, but if you need to add some water to smooth it out, feel free. You might want to let your slab set up just a little bit so that it's not too wobbly. For this demo, I'm going to go through it pretty quickly so that you can see how to make it. You're going to do something called slip and score. So we're going to use vinegar, if you have access to vinegar. White distilled is what I'm using, and I'm scoring the surface, meaning I'm marking it up and scratching lines into it. You can use a fork, you can use a toothpick, whatever you have access to will work just fine. When you score the surface, it ensures that the clay is going to stick together. The vinegar will also aid in this process. So you're going to take your slab and you're going to make it into a cylinder. I want you to really smooth out this seam and make sure it's nice and tight together so it's one uniform piece of clay. If your slab is too soft, just let it set up and come back, or you can use a hairdryer. You can use any tools you have available to really work that seam together. If you need to make little coils to help it stick together, that's fine as well. To attach the foot to the bottom of your cylinder, you're going to trace around that bottom edge. Once you know the size of the foot, you can cut it out. And then really make sure it's nice and smooth. Again, wad up that clay, put it under some plastic so that it doesn't dry out on you. If you need to use a little bit of water, you can use some water or a rib to make sure your shape is nice and smooth. And then you're going to slip and score, attach it the same way you did previously. Here I'm using vinegar. Score both surfaces, so the cylinder and the foot. And then you really want to make sure these two pieces of clay are attached nicely. So use whatever you have available. You can use a wooden tool, you can use your fingers, anything to help make sure these two pieces of clay are attached very well. Here I'm using vinegar on the inside, and then I'm going to pound it down on the table a little bit. To make a handle, you're going to roll out a coil. I like to flatten my handles down so they're not too heavy. You want to make sure that it's nice to hold on to, so you want it long enough that a hand can get in there. If you're doing something a little bit more sculptural and you need to change the shape of it, that's totally fine. This is a very basic handle. If you're having trouble making a coil, you can also make a small slab. That would work as well. As you're starting to make this handle, you want to measure it to your cup. Make sure it's nice and smooth on all sides. Measure it again to make sure it's really exactly what you want. This was a little thick for me, so I decided to cut it down and make it a little bit thinner. You want to make sure to let this set up a little bit so that it doesn't lose its form. And then you want to make sure to attach it the same way we've attached previously. So you're going to slip and score. I'm going to use vinegar. And I like to attach the handle right at the seam. It kind of helps hide the seam. So you want to hold it in place where it goes and mark it so you know exactly where you're going to score the surface. If you're finding that your clay is too soft, really grab a hairdryer and try to dry it out a little bit so that it doesn't move on you, or just let it set up without any plastic over it for about 30 minutes. And it should be a nice consistency to attach the handle without altering the shape of your mug. Really make sure to push these pieces together. You also want to go around the edges of them with a tool to make sure it's nice and attached the same way we attached the foot, the same way you made the cylinder. Really make sure that these two pieces of clay become uniform so that they stay together. It's very important. Again, this is a very basic mug. If you have a shape and you're not sure how to make it, just let me know and I can help you make a different kind of shape than this. But this is a very basic mug, and once you have this and you let it set up, you can add on to it.